This conference will
Yeah.
now be recorded.
You don't have to put the
Sorry.
bracket.
Okay.
You don't.
Okay, but you have put it on every table, in every table, right?
No, I put it
Achha,
here, right?
okay. Okay. So is that
Right.
anything means to us that we need to put that, or just for the best practices we put that QVD in bracket at the end while
No, when you
storing the
load,
data?
no, when storing the data, you don't need it. I think when you load the data from the Qvd, that is when that keyword is required for the data to load from Qvd. You don't need it when storing the data. You need it when you're loading the data from Qvd. So that identifies that it's a Qvd.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. When we load this QVDs, you'll see that. Yeah. For storing, I didn't use it. Storing, you don't have to use it. It's just .qvd.
Okay.
Okay. So yesterday you also saw how we could connect to a web
Yeah.
page, right? A web page and
Yeah.
pick up the data. So same thing, like you can create multiple new connections. So if you have different databases, like if you have a file in Dropbox, you can connect to a file in Dropbox. So the only thing that changes is the way you have to enter the information, connectivity information. For example, yeah, Azure SQL database. So it's same as Microsoft SQL Server, but you need to give the Azure URL here and the database name and credentials. It is almost exactly the same as a normal SQL connector. So once you do that, see, suppose I have created this connection. So here I have created SQL production server connection, right? So similarly, you'll get all the connections over here and the next steps, right? So whenever I want to select a table, add a table, create the script, everything is similar across all databases, right? So I want human resources, I can do employee. It is the same thing. All data sources will give me an option to select the tables. Once I select the table, it will generate the script for me. I can just insert the script over here. So I don't have to worry about it. So when you select a table, it will automatically add the connection name. So one thing you'll have to just make sure is if you're connecting to a different database, then you can't use one connection string which is on the top. You have to add those connection strings appropriately. Now, so I brought the employee table. Let me store this employee table also. Right. We also saw the debugger option, how you could run a limited load to do smoke testing. And we do that.
But right now, when we loading on only, actually this app is only the ETL app, right? Yeah, extractor. Okay.
Yeah.
Extracted. So
yeah.
So when we open any app and go to the visualization part, there we cannot see any fields, right? Or we do?
Yeah. So no, for the end user, when he opens the app, the charts and all, yes, you create dimension measures. He won't see the fields. But if you give access to create, like suppose I publish this app, not the front end app, and then we give access for the users to create new charts, self-service. That is when he will be able to see the fields. Yeah.
So this app will as called as on-demand creation of dashboards, right? So this kind of things. when we provide these types of extractor files to the end user, then they can design any kind of visualization as per their requirement, and they show to the another management people or anyone. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
true. So what we do is, see, there are two, three ways of looking at things. Okay. One is, now we are just at the extractor level. So we are here. We are extracting the information and storing it into Qvd. So this is the first layer Qvd that we are working on as of now, right? So we just created these 6 to 7 Qvds with all the one-to-one tables. Now we can create this. While we see this, for the end user, right, there are two, three ways of giving access. One, you might just tell, okay, I have created these Qvds, go create a new app. So what they will do, they will create a completely new app from scratch.
Okay.
You will not create anything. Okay, so that is like from scratch, they'll create a completely new app. Second, you will just create the data model. So basically, what is the difference here, right? You're not creating any file for them. They can just open the open Qlik Sense, create new app, connect to the Qvds and do it. In the second option, you're creating an app already, which is like a data model, but you want to create UI, no UI. So you will just define how many Qvds should be there, what is the connection between these Qvds, how many fields should be there. But you will not create UI, so the end user will create UI.
Okay.
Right. Then the third is, you will create an app. So assuming you will create an app with 3 sheets, right, with various analysis. Now what? So if you have created 3 sheets, maybe those analyses are not enough to the user. The user might say, okay, I want to add another 2 sheets. These will be personal to the user. Okay, he creates personal sheets, but he can share it with other users. Right? So basically, this is one set of users where you will create a final app which will have couple of analysis, but you give user capability to do more analysis and also share it with others. The third is, you create an app, you include everything. The end user just consumes. That means he won't be able to create anything additionally. He can use whatever you have created.
Okay. Okay.
So there are three like different sets of users for all of these requirements. From scratch, data model, creating app, and the users who just consume everything.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll come to this. So when we get there,
Mhm.
you'll understand. Just that you were confusing with the users, I thought let me clarify this. All right.
Okay.
So now what we did is we did this part of it. Let's see. Okay, like I said, there you can build multiple layers. I'm not going to get into layer by layer. I'm going to tell you what this layer is, but the scripting, right, is something that we'll learn as we go forward now. So let me show you what this layer is. Now,
Okay.
assuming we have created this extractor file, this extractor
Mhm.
file is here, 656 AdventureWorks extractor. Now, first level of extractor is done. I'll leave it there. I can schedule that file. I'll create a new file, 656. I try to make sure my naming is layer 2, layer 1, I would say. Okay, you can follow any naming convention. I'm calling it layer 1. You can call it as transformation 1, or you could call it how you want it. So I'll say script editor again. Now this time, I'm not going to load data from my database. I'm going to create a
Okay.
section. So I'll say orders AGGR. So in this application or script, I'm going to load the QVDs. So if you remember, this is my QVD folder. If I click here, I can see all the QVDs that I've created. So now what I want to do is aggregate data for tax amount. So I'll pick up sales order header. Right? I'll get the entire script. I'll just insert it. Now if you see here, I've loaded data from the QVD. You don't see SQL statement, and you see that QVD thing that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is, if I don't mention this, then Qlik will not understand this is a QVD. So it will not understand the file type. So here
Even
it is
we
mandatory.
giving the path also,
Yeah.
then also he didn't understand if we don't write qvd at the end and just giving the path
No.
and the file name. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Even if you give the QVD and path name, it won't understand.
Okay.
All right. So you have to give this mandatory. Now what I have to do is I want to do aggregation, right? So I want to store QVD7. So QVD7 can be anything. In this scenario, all I want to do is tax amount aggregation for territory ID. Tax. So I'll say territory tax. So basically what I want to do is I can just take territory. For every territory, I want to figure out the total tax amount. So a very simple aggregation. So we'll see, we'll go through a couple of other scripting techniques and capabilities. You'll be able to do a lot more. Here, just to give you a heads up, I'm trying to do
Okay.
explain the concept. I'm doing a simple aggregation. Right. So now this is done. Same thing I'll have to do is like this is the aggregation I'm running. I just have to store it like how I did it for the earlier script. I'm just gonna copy the store command. Now what I can do is either I can store it in the same folder. For here I have this QED file, right? I can store it in the same folder, or I can create a subfolder. So I generally create a subfolder. So I'll say layer 1. What I'll have to do is add this URL while storing over here. So I'll say, okay, sorry, not there. I have to do it here. So I'm telling store the territory tax into layer 1 folder and drop the territory tax table. I
Okay.
hit load. Now this will execute. There were 10 territory IDs. So the table has aggregated over 10 records. It has generated 10 records. Now if I go here, my layer 1 QED is ready. Likewise, I can do other transformations in this file itself, right? So I can create one extractor file for one aggregation table, or I can write multiple aggregations in a single file. So it is up to you how you want to develop the entire project. So there is no right and wrong. It is all purely about what is your project requirement. So you can have multiple files here to create multiple layer 1, layer 2 QEDs, or you can have multiple You can have one file creating all of these QVDs. What is the advantage of one file creating everything? So you know that you just have to execute that file. But what is the advantage of having multiple QVDs? In single file, what happens is everything runs sequential, right? So even in our first extractor file, the script that I've written, everything runs sequential. What I mean is, this is like one big script. It starts from here, it goes step by step. You can't run product and orders parallelly. So if you want to run product and orders parallel extraction, then you have to put products into a separate app, orders into a separate app, right? Two apps, and then you can schedule those two apps to run parallel extraction. But ideally, it is single consecutive. So when you need speed, right? When the customer says, "I want the data to be extracted," so if this entire thing is taking 30 minutes, maybe your customer says, "No, I want," your user says, "I want the extraction within 15 minutes." Then you can split it, because both run parallelly. You can finish it in 15 minutes rather than waiting for 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So for the layers, you understand it. So there's no we can create as many as layers with this concept. All we have to do is create these individual files. So let's just quickly take a stock of what we have done and what next we learn. So this is what we saw, the process of
Right.
ETL and segmentation. Yeah. Right. So let's just put this. Right. So we'll run through this so that we complete this, and then we'll go into the front end. This data load manager, all of these things are the front end capabilities. We'll come to that. Right. Now, scripting is quite powerful, right? So what I'll do is I'll create a new app. I'll call this as application. So whenever we create a final app, right, we name it as an app. So here I'm creating, basically not creating a final app, but naming it so that we can run through the scripting process. So now, first thing, okay, I chose the wrong option. All right. Now let's look at scripting a little more deeper. Now, the same thing from our QVDs, I will load the two files that we loaded, the QVDs, right? So I'll load the sales order header, select, not going to do much change, insert. Same thing I'll do, select order, detail, select, insert. So you saw this order header, order detail. Like I said, if I don't give any name, it automatically takes, but yeah, best practice, put a name so that you can control the table in a better way. Now I've loaded these two tables. I'll just hit load. And now both the tables are loaded in memory. But if you look at the script, right? So it says, okay, sales order header, optimized QVD optimized load, sales order detail, QVD optimized load. Lines fetched 1,21,000, but it is also telling me there is a synthetic key. Now what happens in Qlik is an associative engine. The moment I load two tables, both the tables get associated. When I say association, it is basically a link between two tables defining primary key foreign key relationship for any querying mechanism. So in a regular join, right, what happens? You lose data. Either you do full outer join where you don't lose any data, but you kind of distort the data. But if you do left join, right join, inner join, you always lose data. Right. Now in Qlik, we don't do that. In Qlik Sense, the idea is you bring in the tables and associate them. You just define the foreign key, primary key relationship. So what happens? You're not doing a full outer join immediately to distort the data. The data is still separate and intact in the tables. You're not doing left join, right join, or inner join to drop the data. Now in Qlik, so you need to define only one key, which is would define the relationship. Like you need to have a single association. But in reality, sometimes what happens is every table would have multiple common fields, right? They might be related to a primary key foreign key relationship, or they might not be. They might just be like additional keys or additional common fields. So that is where Qlik kind of resolves that using a synthetic table. What is a synthetic table? For example, if I have to say in these two tables, sales order ID is the main key, but to define a primary key, I might have to use the combination of three fields: sales order ID, row GUID, modified date. Same thing for sales order header. So rather than creating a surrogate key or composite key, Qlik creates a synthetic intermediate table. So this table will have the combination of all the three fields from both the tables. Right? It becomes like a reference table in between, and that defines that association, telling that okay, the combination of sales order ID, row GUID, modified date is this combination is equivalent to the combination in sales order header. So synthetic table or synthetic key is Qlik's way of managing multiple common fields or multiple key fields. This is good. This is not bad, or this is not something wrong. It is okay to have it in a very simple data set.
But if there are multiple synthetic key, how can we handle that?
Yeah, I'm coming. When I say it is okay to have it, so it is what I'm trying to tell is it is not like, okay, there's some big mistake in the data model, but Qlik's recommendation is even if it is small, big, anything, don't have a synthetic key. So the best practice or the ground rule is don't have any synthetic key in the table. Right? So never have any synthetic key. How do we solve it? So that is the interesting thing. Now, one thing that you need to observe is Qlik when I'm using scripting. Okay, so I'm very specifically telling when we are using scripting, the way Qlik associates is by field names. So it uses the same field names. Here it found three fields with same field names across the tables. It created a synthetic key. I'm stressing on this only in scripting. This is what happens. When I'm using data manager, the concept is different. We'll look at it when we reach there. So basically now what I have is, so your question is, okay, how do I manage it? Now, first thing is, so how are synthetic keys? Associations are based on same field names.
Column, field name, sorry.
Yeah, right. Column names, field names, you can say anything. So there are multiple ways of doing it, not exactly two ways. One, do you really need these same fields? For example, I have row GUID modified date, row GUID modified date. Do I need these fields? So what I can do is I can comment these fields. Okay. First method is basically don't load the fields.
Okay.
In either of the table.
So if we
So
if I not load those fields, then also if we want to extract that value in our visualization, we can do that because it's
so
available in another table. That's why.
no, it won't. See, I'll come to that once again. So
Okay.
when I comment this, so now I have commented it in one table. That means I'm not loading the data in sales order header. So what happens? Automatically the synthetic key will get resolved. There is only one field in the common between these two tables, that is sales order ID. So it is linked to the sales order ID,
Okay.
right? Right. Now this table would not have sales order header, will not have that row GUID and row modified date. So for example, here I don't have that column. So ideally you can do that for both the tables. So I don't need this fields in both the tables. I can comment them. So first thing is don't load unwanted fields which are not required. So this way you can resolve synthetic key. Second way is you can say, no, these fields are not primary keys, but I need this for my data. So what you can do is alias them. I'm using short form for sales order header.
Yeah, not an issue.
So I can do it this way. So what I will do is I'll alias these keys. When I hit load, now I'll have
Okay.
yeah. Now I have those keys. Uh, like I'll have those fields, but they won't affect it.
Because the alias name is different, right? That's why it's not effective. But the
Correct.
data is the
Correct.
same.
Yeah. So for your question, yeah, if I need this in my report, yes, you get the fields in your report and you can use it. Just that the names will be different. So my synthetic key is resolved over here. Right. So I have this resolution for this synthetic key. So I have the fields, but they are named different.
So just one more thing. Can we create one more table where we can map all these synthetic key uh, to the other tables? So my question is, can we create another section where we can put all the same names which available in another tables and create another section with the name of the mapping table?
But that is similar, that Qlik already does that for you, right? Why would you want to do that? If I don't do this, for example, I'll not rename these fields.
Okay.
So the concept of synthetic table is the same thing that what you're telling. It is basically creating a mapping table with all the keys. So if I load this, it creates synthetic key. So basically it is creating a third table with all the mappings of all the between both the tables. So if you see here, this is the table that is being created. So it is being created with the mapping.
Okay.
It's like a common table between the two tables. So why would you want to do that? The challenge is, yeah, for your question, yes, you can do that. But also is you wouldn't do that because it's what actually Qlik is already doing it for you. And we're trying to eliminate it because of the complexity and the challenge in managing that kind of data set.
Yeah, actually I'm thinking for my project basis. So there are multiple table, right? And when I'm creating that, they create I think 2 or 3 synthetic key, but I want to also store all the tables in single qvd file. So in that case, maybe I need to create
Okay, in
another
that case,
mapping.
look, if you want all the tables to be in a single QVD, a QVD is a single table file, right? So you'll have to convert these tables into a single table file. You'll see there is a join. There are joins where you could process joins or you could concatenate data, plan accordingly, and then store the data appropriately into a single QVD file.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see that. Right.
Yeah.
Now what we have is basically we could eliminate we eliminated synthetic keys. The other way, one is, like I said, renaming the field. The other way also is, if you think no, these two tables have a relationship of being, I mean, they are used to define the association. They're part of a composite key. Then what you can do is, for example, I'll just leave it as I'll do this. So basically what we do is we create a surrogate key, surrogate key or a composite key, you can call it. Composite key is using 3 fields, you create a key. So whenever you're creating additional keys, right, a field that is key, the best practice is used to this, use percentage symbol. So as a prefix so that you identify the key fields easily or composite
Okay.
fields easily. Now that I've defined this, I can load it. Now what Qlik will do, it will create this composite key and associate the tables using this composite key. So your if your data is based on these 3 fields, now it is associated based on these 3 fields. Now if I go here, you'll be able to see this. So here in scripting, when you're using scripting, the association is always based on table field names. So if there are 2 fields which have common same name, it will be associated.
Okay, got it.
All right. Now this also must have given you an idea that how do I manage associations, right? In this scenario, what we have is all the associations, right? So it is based on the field name. Now what happens if I want to associate it on a different field name? Now in this scenario, sales order ID is common, so it is picking up, but I want sales order header from sales order ID to associate to sales order detail. So there's no ways that you can have the same name and do it. So ideally you'll have to change the name. Maybe comment the sales order ID and rename this field, alias it as sales order ID. Then these two tables will be connected. So you can't have two tables with or two fields with different names and associated. If you want to create any association between any field, you'd have to make sure those two fields have same name and or unique fields in those tables. Right? So
Even
if you
though
see it,
they are in small letter or capital letter, it consider as a same field or different field.
it will consider same field. But yeah, I would recommend managing same cases because it should not confuse you later. So see if you can manage same case everywhere, but it will consider as same field. It is not case sensitive for field names, but there are certain keywords and scripting where it is case sensitive.
Okay. So Qlik is case sensitive tool, right?
Not completely. That's what I'm telling. Few places it is not, few places it is.
Okay. Okay.
Now I have sales order header. So this is what you saw alias. Now see this script, right? Now what I have is sales order ID, sales order header. When I'm loading this, you're seeing something called as Qvd Optimize Load. So this is very key for your all projects, right? This is the best optimized extraction from a Qvd file. Like if I remember, I was telling you, right? If I'm extracting from the database and if it is taking 30 minutes, the same data would load within 30 seconds in Qvd from a Qvd
Right.
to Qlik Sense app.
UVF. Right.
Now so there are few things that you have to observe. That happens only when you have this Qvd optimized load. So this keyword, that statement that you're seeing, right? If this is not there, then the load is not optimized and it will take its own time to load. So it slows down the process. It's not drastically different. See, if it is taking 30 seconds, it might take 1.5 minutes without a Qvd optimized load. So but the idea is if you want to beat that, right? If you want your extraction process to be faster, like refresh, where does this play? For example, you say if your customer says or user says, I want a refresh of data every 30 minutes. Now for every 30 minutes data, you can't refresh it for 10 minutes, right? Because you lose that 10 minutes advantage. End of the day, it is like only 20 minutes advantage. So to optimize that, if you want a refresh every 30 minutes, then your refresh should complete within 30 seconds. Like I'm just giving a idea. It can be more also. Maybe you might take 1 minute, but the idea is you need to make sure everything gets processed in 1 minute. Now, if it is less data, great. As the data increases, these are the techniques that you have to make sure are applied so that you load it faster over here. So you need to always make sure it is always Qvd optimized load. Now, what happens is in real life, or people don't keep an eye on this. For example, a simple where clause. So I'll say where territory ID is equal to 4. So I just want to load one territory ID. People use where clause. The moment I do any kind of change in the script, or if I do any kind of processing, right? Where clause is also a processing, right? The optimization goes off. So you see that now sales order header is not an optimized load. Only sales order detail is still an optimized load. So you write any transformations while loading the data from a Qvd, the optimization goes off. So when the
Even
optimization goes
we
off,
load the data from the Qvd file, then also.
yes, yes. No,
Okay.
Qvd optimization is only when you load the data from Qvd. Right? Qvd optimization is not available when you load data from a database. So that is basically a property of Qvd. When you're loading data from Qvd, you can have an optimized load, but any transformation you do, the optimization goes off.
Okay.
Okay. So that is where you have to take, we'll discuss the techniques how to manage it. Now the take is you write where clause, right? So it goes off, fair enough. You write a if condition. For example, I just ship method ID, right? I have if ship method ID is equal to 1, I'll say online or store. Even if I write as if condition, the optimization breaks and it just does a normal process. You can actually see the difference. It was when it was optimized, it was 2 seconds. When I'm not
Now
doing
it's 4
optimize,
seconds.
it is going 4 seconds. Yeah. Right. Now what happens? Why? So how do we manage this? So if you want to load Qvd as an optimized load, the only two things that you can do in the script is you can do alias. For example, I have done row GUID as SOD row GUID. Aliasing a name does not break Qvd optimization. So if I load now, so you see that Qvd optimization. So you can use rename fields that won't break Qvd optimization. So
Okay.
use alias and use where exist. So these are the two things you can do and not break script, not break the optimization load. Okay, what does that mean? For example, let's say I need territory ID. I'll just say where territory ID is equal to 4. Okay. Now this table is load will break the Qvd optimization and will load only territory 4 data. Right? What? How many records? 6,000 records have been loaded. Territory 4. Now, if I have to take sales order detail has 1,21,000 records. For example, it is having 1,21,000 records. I don't want all of these are all the records, right? But I want from this, I want only the records that are matching territory 4 sales order detail, sales order ID. So here, okay, I'll just correct this because this is something we did. Okay, what I mean is in the header detail, I'm filtering the records to 6,000. In the detail table, I want those records matching the sales order ID here. Only the detailed records for territory 4. So there are 2-3 ways of doing it. One, I can write a where clause like a do a left join, right? Or in a normal scripting scenario. But in Qlik, we have made it easy. What happens as we run the script? So this is the table that loads first. So it will load into memory. So it will go into the Qlik memory. What I can do is I can refer this table for the memory. What I can do, I can say load instead of writing a where clause in Qlik, there's a very interesting clause called where exists. I will just use the field name. So what it does is I use the wrong field. Sorry, I'll have to use this sales order ID. Now what this will do is it will first filter. It will take the sales order ID, check if it is already existing in the table that is in memory, and then load the records from this table. So it does like a where clause. So the where condition is the value should be already existing in the preloaded table. So this is the first table that is loaded, right? So this sales order ID field is already in memory. So it is matching the values that are already there in memory and bringing only those values. So it is a very interesting concept. It is not like a normal where clause which reads through data and applies where. It uses the data. It compares the data in the memory. Suppose I have loaded 100 sales order ID in memory, it will bring only those matching 100 records. If
In another table.
and it is not, yeah.
Okay.
But it should have already loaded. So this table should have already loaded. So when I hit load, now you see that sales order header is loaded. Sales order detail also is loaded, not 1,21,000 but 25,000 records, because it is bringing in only for the matching territory ID. But you also see it is still QVD optimized. Right? So this is where you use where exists to optimize your extraction process. So this is the where exist is a very powerful capability. Where exist. Now coming to the first table, how do I make sure this is optimized? Territory ID is optimized. Right. And there are multiple other challenges also. For example, here I'm using territory ID. I want to add one more territory ID. So you'll have to give, or you'll have to continuously give multiple or statements, or territory 4, territory 5, or territory 6. So you'll have to keep giving these statements. Now imagine you have a customer field and you want to filter 1,000 customers or 100 customers. Then also it becomes a challenge. To address this, right, having optimized load, to address this, we use where exist. So what I can do is I will say where exists territory ID.
So at the above, I need to put all the territory IDs, and in the below table, just need to be write down the where exist command, right? Like that.
Where here, right? Here. Okay. I mean, you're talking about this table?
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, because like I said, I can use where exist only if territory is already loaded in the memory. So what we do is generally we create dummy tables. So in Qlik, we also have something called as inline load. So last time we were discussing multiple load statements, right? So this load, inline load, we'll look into this today. So inline load is ideally the capability to create tables without having to actually, without, it's hard coded. For this, what I do is, okay, I have a script.
So it's generally so in real environment it used inline data because okay.
I don't recall the script. I'll just say, I'll just search for Qlik Sense Inline Load.
So on for an example where we can use the inline code, because we do not use this in every project, right? Because every project have a different scenario.
Yeah, I mean, you might end up using everywhere.
Okay.
I'll tell you once again. See, inline load is ability to hard code certain amount of data. So what that allows us to do is, give me a second. This is weird. None of the Qlik websites are opening for me. I'll use it from my previous one of my previous apps only. Okay, I have it over here. So this is like an inline load. So what I'm doing is I'm loading a table. So let's say I name is as territory. Okay, and in this table I have three fields. For our requirement, I just need one field. Just to be sure that the field name is matching, I will use copy this field name over here. So
But
I
in
am
that case, we need to know that we have only these IDs, not the dynamically updated IDs, right? If we have, then we need to become to the script part and then again update this table, right?
You're right. Okay, I'll come to that part also. Just give me 1 second. Right. So the first thing that we need to understand, like you rightly said, if I want to hard code something, so this
Mm,
script is a pure hard coded script. Okay, I want to load only territory 4 data. So create this inline load. So you're right. Inline load, there are a lot of places that you use in your projects as you go forward. You might want to do some filtering this method, or you might just want to add some static data. So that is when you use inline load. Now this, like you said, it is hard coded. So it is a static information. So when I hit load, so this table would be loaded, territory, one record, right? Basis that
mm.
where exist is done, our optimization is done. Now you might ask me, okay, why do we do this? See, the idea is when I'm loading this QVD, right? Imagine here I'm loading just 32,000 records or 40,000 records. But when I have to load millions of records, rather than writing a where clause and not doing an optimized load, I would rather hard code it in a simple table and do it and lower and process that optimized load. Okay, first option is that. Second, like you rightly said, this has very specific use cases where I know the script, I know the values that I want to enter. For example, I know these are the three values, I have to do it. Tomorrow, if you want to add more values, you'll have to come back here, change it. But nobody is stopping you from making this dynamic. Right? What I mean is, you don't want to use this, you can always load this from a database table. For example, I have this in a, so I have the sales territory, right? So I can load it over here. So these are the fields. I don't need all the fields. I just need this territory field. I can make this dynamic. I can edit it in that table. This can come from a existing QVD, or this can come from a database table or an Excel file. You can store the values elsewhere, manage it externally to Qlik, and make it dynamic within Qlik. So first this will get loaded, then our following where exist gets loaded. So it is up to you how you want to manage it.
Okay, okay, okay. And same way, we need to call that what you have done in the order tab, right? Just need
Yeah,
to write that tracking ID over there. Okay, okay.
where exist territory ID. That's all. You just have to make sure these field names are there. See the concept, more than script, right? You need to understand the concept. The concept is I need to have the field, not even the table. Okay. It does not matter whether it's a big table, small table, multiple tables. It's just that this field, the field that I want to use in where exist, should have loaded before I load the table. So if this is the table that I'm loading, it should be already in memory and there should be certain values. So it basically compares to those values and loads the data for this table.
Uh, I didn't get it. Can you repeat it again?
Okay. What I'm telling is I'm loading this table first, right? This is the table that I'm loading first. You
Mm,
understand that, right? So this will
mm,
go into memory. See what script will start from here. It will
mm.
execute here. So it will load this table. So this will be in the memory already. Now when I use
Okay.
where exist does
Mm.
not bother about the table. It checks, okay, there is a field already in memory called territory ID. In that field, there are five values. I will match those five values and get the data from this table.
So it's checking from the initial table, not from this table, right?
Yeah, it is comparing to the initial table. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. Same thing goes for this. So again, I'm using sales order ID. So sales order ID is being loaded from this table into memory, right? Sales order ID is already in memory. So if sales order ID has 100 values, so this table will match those 100 values and bring those 100 values.
Okay.
So this way you can manage where exist and synthetic keys. Where exist will always do optimized load. You can use where clause where it is unavoidable. You have to use a where clause. But the best thing is we don't use any where clause as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think this is what I had today. So tomorrow we'll look at joins and the other aspect of this.
Okay. So Ajra, just one question. Can I ask some question regarding my projects also, if I get any issue on that?
Yeah, you can. No worries. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So actually, I am creating a app where we can see the utilization and productivity of colleagues for entire
Okay.
organization. So
Okay.
the challenging part is that the employee table get updated on every week. So when I'm pulling that data in the QVF file every week, the number going should change, because every week a few employees are leaving the organization, few more people joining in the organization. So in that case, and we load that file on every week. So
Okay.
when we calculating the productivity and the utilization by week on week, it will be it will be going every time different, because we replacing the employee data every week. So the numbers are gone for the previous week calculation, because if for an example, if I have last week 230 people in my organization, and in coming week it's increasing to 250, right? So the last week calculation should be on 240 people lots. But when I'm loading new data of the employees, it will calculating on the current employee basis. So the numbers are reflecting wrong. So how can I handle that?
Okay. So
Are you getting
understand.
are you getting my point of what I'm trying to
No, yeah, not clearly. So
Okay.
okay, can we discuss this tomorrow when during the start of
Yeah,
the
sure.
session? Because
Sure.
what I would
Just,
suggest is,
yeah.
can you create a sample data set? I mean, not your
Yeah,
actual
I
data
can
set.
show you. I can
Create,
show you that. I can show you that.
yeah, probably tomorrow morning, like before when we start the session, we'll run through this quickly.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks. All right then.
Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.